Hey guys, welcome back. Crazy turn of events. We made our way down from Paris. Last time we were having the picnic in the park, and we made our way down to Spain to go to the beach and see the cliffs and all of that. And we're walking along this beautiful beach, and then all of a sudden we come across these melting clocks. I'm not really sure what's going on there. We're waiting for the Coast Guard to show up to figure out what's going on, if there is some sort of weird gravity thing. I don't know what's going on. So while we're doing that, we are going to go ahead and complete Module 3. This is our Principles of Design chapter, and there's only one lesson this week. It's just lesson 6. However, it might be multiple parts potentially. I'm not sure how it's going to be divided up yet. So if there are multiple parts, once we get there, make sure that you watch all of them and not just the first one. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Go big. Okay. Alrighty, so we left off last time with the elements of art or elements of design. And those I kind of refer to as our ingredients to making artwork. All artwork has the elements of design within them. They all have color, light, space, shape, all of those things. However, the principles of design, which is what this lesson is going to be about, is talking about how to organize those things in order to make successful artwork. So while, your 2-year-old nephew or Van Gogh might all be using the elements of design, probably Van Gogh is going to be closer to the ones that is understanding the principles of design, which is how to organize those things. So let's think about principles of design as being the recipes of art. If elements are ingredients, then principles are recipes or organized artworks. All right. I've got this little chart here, which is not totally accurate, but I'm going to reference it anyway. So what are the principles of design? Our definition is the guidelines that help artists organize their work to create stunning, meaningful compositions. So kind of just what I said in the earlier part there. It's just how you organize the artwork, how you organize the elements. And they are balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, rhythm and repetition, which are kind of connected, unity and harmony, which are connected, and then proportion and scale, which are sort of connected, but there's some really key differences. So make sure that you are paying close attention to when I go over those ones that there's kind of two parts to them. And again, the principles of design are created by using the elements of design as discussed in Module 2. And this little image here, if you want to look at this on the slides, if this is helpful for you, I'm not going to go through each one just for the time, but this is sort of showing all of those in action in a single artwork and pointing out where they take place at. I think there is maybe an extra one in here. Movement is one. We have movement, just kidding. Pattern is one, but you can kind of think of pattern as being repetition. All right, so I'm going to go to our first one here, which is balance. So our definition for balance is arranging elements so no part of the artwork feels too heavy or empty. So, you can have balance in the artwork and it not work successfully, but to organize it and use it like a principle, you need to know how to distribute that like visual weight. So our types that we mostly refer to are symmetrical, which are balanced and formal, like a mirror image. And it's really common in sculpture and architecture. I should have added that in. If you're doing the skeletal notes, maybe just write architecture as well. Think about like buildings and things, especially like big government buildings or historic buildings like the Colosseums and all of that. They have a real like symmetry to them, like one side is equal to the other side. And that makes sense because we want buildings to be stable and reliable. And, we don't want to think about them as like falling down or being too heavy on one side. So we organize them in an artistic way to make them symmetrical and give that sense of stability. So asymmetrical is more dynamic with different elements that still feels balanced, but there is a difference in the weight. One side might be heavier than the other side as far as the visual weight of things go, or like the subject matter, the space that's being used, the positive space that's being taken up. And then lastly is radial, and this one's, kind of the least common, I would say, out of all three. And this is when there is circular balance, like a flower or a mandala, where everything is sort of like symmetrical in the round. And so, how would you apply those ingredients to create balance? So, some examples of that, you could use equal size shapes on both sides of a painting to create symmetry or like a symmetrical sense of balance. So, if you put one square on this side that's the same, the exact same on this side, same size and everything, same color, whatever, that would create symmetrical balance. So, that's how you would use that visual weight to kind of create some stability there. And a built-in question that we'll have is I want you to identify what type of symmetry is being used in this painting here, which we probably are all familiar with. It's called the Great Wave. Out of these three types, what type of balance do you think is being used? Take a minute to answer that, and then I will give you the answer. Okay, so the answer to this is asymmetrical balance. And I'm going to tell you why that is the case for this one and why that's a really useful tool to connect to meaning as well. So our wave creates that shape of the wave creates a much heavier side on the left, and the right side, the waves aren't as big, they're more kind of calmer and they are smaller. And so the artist, is trying to convey the idea of a great wave or a big wave. And so if we have another wave that's symmetrical on the other side, there's not really an understanding of like which wave are you talking about. There's not as much emphasis being put on the great wave if you have it symmetrical. So that asymmetrical balance gives that left side more power and more visual weight and leaves the right side more kind of empty to emphasize that great wave. So those things, that's how all of that kind of stuff combines together and how you can be a good artist by understanding how those things work and not only make it look good, but make the meaning make sense as well. So I'm going to do contrast, and this is probably the last one I'll do on this video. So make sure you stick around for the rest of them. Okay, so contrast is when juxtaposing elements are used to create drama and draw attention. So for example, light versus dark, rough versus smooth, or small versus gigantic. Essentially, there is like something, it's like opposing forces, essentially. And just a tip, you can use contrast to highlight your focal point or to add excitement in your work. And how might you do this? You can place complementary colors like blue and orange together to create vibrant contrast. And if you remember back on our elements when we were talking about color as an element, you know that complementary colors are as far on the color wheel apart as they can be. They're on opposite ends. So when you put them together, they don't blend together. They contrast really strongly. And so it makes a really powerful, emphasis on something. It can make it look very dramatic, very bright, very saturated, however you want to go about doing that. But color is a great way to create contrast in a work. And I want you to identify how contrast is being used in this Andy Warhol print. And really you could say what elements are being used and how are they being used to convey contrast in this work. Take a minute to answer that and I will give you the answer. Okay, so the answer is I gave it to you actually in the example. It's going to be complementary color use. So not blue and orange, but green and red are also complementary colors. They're as far apart on the color wheel as they possibly can be. So when you put them together, they're not going to blend together. They're going to create contrast. And this is really great for this, very high saturated, very vibrant print that Andy Warhol makes. And it makes his flowers there really stand out and pop. And so he's using that understanding of color theory to make his painting more vibrant, more alive feeling, and just have really good contrast. Okay, so we will come back in part 2 with emphasis. So make sure that you watch our next part and I will see you then. Maybe the Coast Guard will show up before then.